Just so you know, Nicole will come around and pick up your questions that are written on the index cards at the end of this.
That's what it is. Shit. Oh, for crying out loud. Oh, for crying, come on. God damn it.
Welcome to the Rotary Club of Seattle, where we are continuing to work to build healthy communities. My name is Jan Levy. For those of you who don't know me, I am the president for the 25-26 year. As we are beginning today's program, please take a moment to review and reflect on the land acknowledgement that is appearing on your screen. And at this time, we're going to welcome Jose Negus, Don Murphy, and Burr Stewart for our music today. So welcome, you guys.
My God, what?
We're going to actually sing together a song that was written in the mid-50s for an international children's choir in California. It's quite a very quick song, and we'll sing it. There's two parts to the song, and then we all sing it together. So you can stand up now, or you can stand up then, or you can sing where you are. So. Sorry. Saw the peace that was meant to be with God as glad you are with his family in perfect harmony. Speak with me, let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my soul. To take small and gently, small in peace they turn. There be peace on earth. Let it begin. So everybody now gets to join in and sing it together. Here we go. On earth, and let it begin. Let be peace on earth. Peace that was meant to be. With God. With my family let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my soul. To take each moment and each moment. Son, and let it be. Great.
Thanks to Jose and Don and Burr for that wonderful song. Seems particularly appropriate given the times we're living in. I also want to thank Kathy Cloutier, Dave Farrell, and Janelle Johnson for serving as our greeters today, and Paul Casey for our meeting reporting. We have a lot of guests and visiting Rotarians here with us, and I'm not going to be able to read all your names because there's too many of you. But if you would all stand and be recognized, all visitors and visiting Rotarians, please stand and be welcomed. Today, we are continuing our focus on public safety as a cornerstone of a healthy community. There's no better guide for that conversation than Seattle's police chief, Shon Barnes. I met Chief Barnes this summer at a downtown Seattle Association event. And what stood out for me immediately was how approachable he was. Sharp, thoughtful, and genuinely open to talking with anyone in the room. That accessibility isn't accidental. It reflects his philosophy about policing. Chief Barnes is a strong advocate for neighborhood-oriented policing, smaller police beats, stronger neighborhood relationships, and real engagement at every level. In short, policing that is present, connected, and grounded in partnerships. Since hopefully we will be one of those partners for Chief Barnes, I was delighted when our new mayor chose to retain him upon taking office. That signaled a confidence in both his leadership and his community-centered approach to public safety. His bio is on your tables, but today we're lucky to hear from him directly about what it takes to keep our community safe and thriving. Please join me in welcoming Chief Shon Barnes to Seattle 4.
Thank you, Jan. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Very appropriate. I was reminded this week that Bishop Desmond Tutu once stated, you do not create peace by talking to your friends. You create peace by talking to your enemies, people you do not always agree with. I think that's something that we can use a little bit more of, I think, in this country. I have been to Rotary Club meetings before, and there's some of me on YouTube talking at Rotary Clubs at different police departments I was in, and I knew there was going to be singing. And to Don and them, they did an excellent job, but I had dreams of singing early on in my life in my church. And after my first solo, I became an usher. So you probably saw me nodding my head just a little bit because it was a little childhood trauma there. But thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I want to just share a little bit with you about who I am and my journey. I think what has led me to Seattle. I think that policing or being a good police officer is not just about what you wear on your collar. It's not about the number of people who report to you. It's about, do you have a servant's heart? And to me, our new ad campaign, which is called As You Are, demonstrates that. And the reason the campaign is called As You Are is because we're looking for people with a servant's heart. That's what we want to bring into the Seattle Police Department. And last year, we were able to bring in 167 new police officers to the Seattle Police Department, which gave us a net of 94 police officers, an entire police department almost. They're in various stages of our process, but these are going to be men and women that are going to be on the streets where you live, where you work, where you go to school, and they're going to be there to serve because I look for their heart. I meet them in a program that we have called Before the Badge. And in that program, I get to sit with them for about an hour and just talk about who are you and what are the things that make you who you are. So I'm going to be a good teacher and do that, a little bit of that with you, right? I asked them to do that because they have to be responsible to me, but I have to be responsible to you. So we're going to take a little bit of a journey and talk about behind my badge. And so if you look at the screen, I'm going to try to go through this as succinctly as I can so that I can ask some questions. But at the top, I'm assuming that's the top right, the picture of the lady with the green and the so handsome child down there, full of life. That's me and my grandmother. And to me, it kind of starts there because she was probably one of the smartest persons that I've ever met. She was a high school graduate. She had 9 children. The first she sent to college at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. So that was my connection to Madison. I always ask myself, how in the world North Carolina has more colleges than you can imagine. Did she pick that for her firstborn child, and other kids would go to college, so on and so forth? But she did that because she was a person who believed in the power of education. So it's one of the things that I hope you take from me. I believe in the power of education and providing a safe, warm, and welcoming place for our students. Because for many people, like myself, education is the way out of poverty. Education is the way out of racism, out of sexism. Education is the way that we use as a vessel to change the lives of who we are. I will always um, hold my grandmother dear in my heart. She's no longer with us, but I can tell you this: there's never been a person on this planet that loved me unconditionally, no matter what. Um, love my wife, but if I don't pay the mortgage, she might have. No, I'm I'm sure she still loves me. Um, Below the young man in the brown, there, trying to look older than he actually is that's the first day I became a police officer, and there I'm holding the badge that I would initially wear. Interestingly enough, in the academy, we wear brown shirts, but our uniform was black. The reason our uniform was black is because we had a police chief back in the early 60s, late 50s, who loved LAPD. And he wanted to do everything like the LAPD. If anyone from LA, you know that LAPD, their uniforms are not black, are they? They're blue. So why did he put us in black? Because he had a black and white television and he had never actually been to LA. Uh, so that's why they were, and they still wear black today. I think it looks sharp. You think it looks sharp. Alex looks sharp. But that young man right there really dared to dream. I was the last leader of my academy. I got to give the commencement address as a young officer. And one of the things that I basically told myself back then was that I was going to make a difference. And I hope that along the way I've done that. I've tried to live my life so that people know that they're seen. I'm usually not a type of person to simply say hello. I want to engage in people and ask them questions so that people know that they are seen. And many times we encounter people in our life, but we don't bring them to life. And so that's something I want to leave with you. The next picture is my little brother. And before you say anything, I'm taller. Um, I got all the good looks and all the brains. But that's my little brother, Torian, who, despite my best efforts, followed in my footsteps. I went to the Marine Corps so that he wouldn't have to go to the Marine Corps. And guess what he did? He went to the Marine Corps. But he had to one up on me. I was field artillery, so I was out in the field. I was dirty. I was do all the things. He was a paralegal, so he had to outdo me. But he's excellent. He's a detective now. He does financial crimes. So he's incredibly bright, and so he works to get money back from the elderly community that is often preyed upon by what I think is probably some of the most disgusting people in the world who wants to take the money, hard-earned money, from our elderly population. So if you remember anything from me, remember that I will always stand up for our most vulnerable, but I will definitely be loud and proud about it for our elderly people. I always said that I want to be smart on crime, but I will be tough on crime if you bother my elderly folks because they laid the foundation for us. We don't know the things that they did to make it so that you could have a black chief, that you could have a Sean Barnes, so that you can open your business. And so we must protect them. And I talked to my brother a lot about his work, and he's doing great work as a detective in North Carolina. Keeping moving on, the picture, the black and white of me walking, that is halfway between Selma, Alabama, and Montgomery. We all know what happened on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in 1965, one of the worst moments, I think, in the history of policing. But you can't just leave it there. I have a degree in history. I was a former history teacher, which led me to this point. But I took that walk in 2020 after the summer of 2020 because, to be honest with you, I was tired of policing. I found myself questioning whether or not I had lied to that young man holding that badge there. I found myself questioning whether or not I'd actually made a difference. How is it that I'm going to say I want to make a difference in the lives of people and I have riots in the street? How is it that I say I want life to be better for people and people are calling me names and literally spitting in my face? And I was so tired that I took a break and I went to Selma, Alabama with two of my other friends. And we spent some time at Brown AME, which you all know where that is, where Dr. King spoke and John Lewis and other folks. And we decided to take the walk from Selma to Montgomery. It's 54 miles. It took us 2.5 days to do that. And as we did that, we started taking photos and people were stopping and talking to us. And we made just a short documentary from just some videos that we threw together. But the point of the documentary is that America is not as divided as we think it is. It's not as divided as what they show on television. The people that I stopped were all manners, women, men, white, black, you name it, young, old. They all stopped to check on us and they didn't know us. We were strangers to them. And so it's a reminder that no matter how bad things may get, no matter how bad things may be, there's always someone who will see you when you need them. You just have to open your heart to those, and I will always value that experience. Moving to the left, I think the picture next to the boat is my mom. My mom was very very young when I was born. But she's like my grandmother, incredibly smart and incredibly resilient. And that picture was actually taken in Madison, Wisconsin, in front of Lake Monona. And what's funny about that picture is when I applied for the job in Wisconsin, I still my uncle still lives there, and she brought that picture out to be like, we almost lived there. I was like, what? Like was almost a Wisconsinite? Like, how can that be? And then she demonstrated that she had taken a bus from North Carolina to Madison, Wisconsin to live. And while she was there, she took a bunch of pictures, but the two that she had was that picture and the picture of the library, just the library. Now, I want you to know that you're destined to be a nerd when your mother takes a picture of the library. So don't blame me. But my mother's extremely resilient, and I learned that from her. And that even if things can't be today, with hard work, they can be tomorrow. And when I took the job in Madison, Wisconsin, I told my mom that you never have to worry about living in Madison or being able to afford it as long as I'm there. At the very bottom is my family. So we have three children, Ashley, Aiden, and Addison. And yes, I do get the names mixed up all the time. Some of you do it too. When they're getting on your nerves, you just call them. So just me? Okay. All right. So Ashley is our oldest. She just turned 30. Ashley is a a dance administrator for a conservatory in Boston. And don't ask me what that means. But she travels the country evaluating those who are in the performing arts, ballet, tap, and jazz. And based on their performance, she judges them and she can let them into the conservatory. So she's living her life in the arts. And so she has a degree in fine arts from Cal Arts in, I believe, Santa Clarita, California. And yes, I paid for that. Um, True story. She took a class as part of her master's curriculum called Going to the Club in the 90s. That's true. And guess who was the subject of her analysis? Me. But she got an A because I had a lot of material. But anyway, uh, moving on, that's me. Next to me is our youngest Addison. You will be hard pressed to find a photo where Addison is not next to me. She is truly daddy's girl. Addie is a freshman in high school in Chicago, where my wife and family live. She is a wrestler. And so she has a tournament coming up this weekend, and she's done extremely well in wrestling. Next to her is my wife, Dr. Stephanie Dance Barnes. My wife is a overachiever. Which okay, all right. No, she's an overachiever because she has a PhD in cancer biology and in toxicology. And she's the dean of the College of Science and Health at DePaul in Chicago. She has dedicated her life to breast cancer prevention because, I honor her when I say that breast cancer affects everyone. It's just not for women, as you know. But she's working really hard on that. And of course, being a dean. And then my son, Aiden, who's 17, knows everything, and yet he's one of the kindest human beings you're ever going to meet in your life. When they were younger, I would say Aiden will grow up to be a lawyer for the ACLU, and Addison will be a mob boss. So that's basically who they were as being 2 years apart. And then lastly, what really makes me me is my dad. My dad taught me everything. He taught me everything. That's how I remember him. He's passed, but I remember him like that. Always going to work, always being a hard worker. My dad owned a shop, a mechanic shop. He had tow trucks, and he worked extremely hard. And so I'll leave you with this story from my dad. So he was strict Christian. I grew up in a home where there were no secular music, no alcohol in the home, no smoking, none of that. Like it was a real deal. But he often taught me a lot of lessons, despite the fact that we were always at each other, which may explain why I was in the club so much in the 90s, because I couldn't listen to rap music in my home. But when I got old enough to argue with my dad, I argued with him about his prices. Any business owners in here have any business owners? I argued with my dad about his prices. I said, Dad, I have this car I brought. It was a Mazda. Yeah, I know. We'll never. It was a Mazda, and this thing kept breaking down. And I would go to the shop, and get oil changes that were like $90. And I went to my dad and I said, Dad, you have to go up on your prices. You're charging 20, $30 for an oil change. You're not keeping up with the market. You need to increase your prices. And my father said, businesses are not money making machines. Businesses exist to provide a service for people, and they exist to serve a community. He said, what good is it having a business if I can't serve my own community? He was 100% right about that. And I think I took that with me into policing because my dad never charged a person for something that they didn't need. And he never overcharged people or told people you needed to do things with your vehicle that you didn't need just for the sake of profit. He was truly a good man. And I hope that in my life I have honored him with who I am as a person. Don't always get it right, miss the mark every day. but I live every day to make sure that he's my leadership test. Am I doing the right thing at the right time for the right reasons? Thank you.
Okay. So I guess we are going to jump into the questions, and we have a lot of really good questions. And I want to say there's some repeating themes, but I'm going to, unfortunately, I guess. But we're going to first start with a pretty natural one. What are your top 3 priorities? And what do you plan to do to restore the public trust, the advent of body cams and social media? If you can tie those together.
Um, so we established 4 priorities when I first got here. So those priorities are really simple. Number one is crime prevention. We are in the crime prevention business, not just responding to crime, not getting there quickly, because you can never get there quickly enough if it's already happened. We're in the job and the business of preventing crime. And how do we do that? We prevent crime by reducing the opportunities for people to commit crime. We tell people to lock things up. We tell them to put things away. We tell them when there are persons who are committing what we call a rash of crimes. And we do that by hardening targets through environmental design. We also do that by decreasing a person's motivation for creating crime. And how do you do that? We do that by our presence. It's really hard to break into things or to hurt people when the police are there. And although we can't be there all the time, we know that through science, if we're at a particular place for 20 to 30 minutes, you get about 2 hours of efficacy after we leave. That's called the Coper method. And so we're applying the Coper method to how we go about crime. And the other thing that we do is by creating guardianship. And that's not just the police. That's also the community members looking out for each other, business owners looking out for each other, and sharing information. The second priority is community engagement, doing things like we're doing now. I love when we get together and we can talk about who we are as persons. So, to the last part of that question, how do you establish trust? You establish trust by letting people know who you are and giving them information before they have to ask about it. We want to make sure that you know that you have a police department that's not perfect. No police department is, but a police department that's working extremely hard for you each and every day. The third priority is wellness, something that when I was a young police officer, we didn't talk about. The things that I saw on the job were not normal, and they affected people tremendously. I've seen people on the job become alcoholics. I've seen people on the job go through divorce. I've seen people on the job go through financial hardships, which causes them not to perform the way we want them to. And so we are looking to expand our wellness program. One of the things that we have done recently, as an example, is we have financial literacy classes for our police officers, or actually all police employees. And this is something not to be taken light, because finances is one of the things that causes a lot of stress on people in general, not just police officers. And so we're teaching people how to manage your finances, how to understand budgeting, and how to make sure you can be your best self. And then the last priority is continuous improvement. Some people say if it's not broke, don't fix it. That is not my model. And I will tell you now that that was part of the model in a lot of police departments, including ours. It's like, hey, it's not broke. Why are we looking at this? We evaluate everything we do under my administration. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. No, if it's not perfect, keep working on it until it is. We're in a constant state of continuous improvement. One of the things that I've done recently or last year that I think is going to pay off dividends is we've changed some precinct captains. We have some people in place that are giving me a 4-year commitment. So we had some that were aging out. Perhaps maybe priorities have changed a little bit, but we have 5 good precinct captains that are going to be in those precincts for 4 years, looking down the road at what crime looks like, or crime prevention looks like in their precincts, and the community engagement. People want to know who their commanders are. They want to know who they're responsible for. When it changes every 2 years, that doesn't help with trust. And so being in the community, making sure that people know who we are is really what we need to do to establish better trust.
Thank you. Okay. We got quite a few about ICE in general.
Sure.
Are there any state or city laws that restrict ICE actions? And if so, is our local police force prepared to interfere or halt ICE?
Yeah, I get this question. I think I've gotten this question every day since I've been here. Um, ICE have been in Seattle since the Obama administration, right? It doesn't change. They are under the umbrella of the federal government. There's very little, if anything, I think that we can do unless they violate the law. If they are abusing people, if there is a use of force, then we can intervene. But if they're going about their business, there's little that we can do other than make sure that they know what our standards are. And I think a big part of the problem is that what are the standards? You know what my standards are. You know what my accountability processes are, but what are theirs? If the department doesn't do well, we can, like we were, be under a federal consent decree. What does that look like for the federal government? We've never had to ponder that question before. But I will tell you what it looks like. It looks like a change in administration. I was a public school teacher for 4 years before I was a police officer. I taught U.S. history. No elected official has a permanent role, I guess, except for well, they're not elected, but the Supreme Court. But if you don't like the way things are going, we need to plan to figure out how to fix that. People can be impeached. So the Constitution is very, very clear about that and how it can be done. We just have to have the appetite for doing it. And it has to be the will of the people. If you do not like the way I treat people, I can be removed. And the same thing goes for anyone else that's in the executive branch.
Um, these two are put together for what is the plan for 3rd and Pike and 12th and Jackson?
Well, it wasn't a problem until I got here. That's, that's the, that's the first thing. And so I apologize. Um, the plan has to be consistency. And we can be honest with each other. Have we been, well, you can answer to yourself, but have we been consistent in our messaging, in our enforcement, and our collaboration? So what I want to bring to Seattle is some consistency. It's going to take a problem-oriented policing plan that's going to incorporate the police as well as other parts of the the government of Seattle. When I sat down within Mayor Bruce Harrell and we talked about my philosophy, I said, if I come here, you have to give me access to other departments. And so we work with IT and figuring out how to give police officers what they need to do their work, not in the office, but out in the field. We work with SDOT and we say, hey, we have a stolen goods that are being sold on the street, but we don't have the authority to enforce it. We can't do that without you. Can you extend some of that to us or work with us to do that? We talk with city lights about when lights go out and how dark it is. We talk with the buses about the routes. It's going to take a whole of government approach. The police will not solve 12th and Jackson by themselves. We need the cooperation of other people. And as the Wilson administration is getting up to speed on things, that's one of the things that I'm bringing them up to speed on, what our efforts are, and will you extend that's the same courtesy to me. Allow me to pick up the phone and call another department head and say, hey, I need some resources. Can you help me with that?
All right. I'm going to throw in one fun one before we end on a more serious one, which is the one you wanted, I think. How long have you been a Seahawks fan?
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, man. Listen, hey, long time, long time. Listen. I've been a Seahawks fan since 2025. I'm telling you, it's been a long time. Now, listen, I've always rooted for the Seahawks. Remember, Russell Wilson played at North Carolina State as a quarterback. And then where did he go from there? Anybody know? Wisconsin. You're right, right. So I've always rooted for him and his team. I thought you guys put together some good teams, but let me be clear. I'm not going to mess this money up. Go Seahawks.
Thank you. Okay, back to we have two more questions, I think. Your proudest achievements from 2025.
Wow. Can I give you two?
Sure.
All right. So I think in no particular order, being able to hire 165 officers in 1 year, 67 in 1 year is a tremendous accomplishment, but it's not mine, right? It belongs to everyone in this room. People don't move across the country or switch departments because of a police chief. They come because of the community. They come because they think they're going to be supported. They come because there's businesses here they can spend their money. There's good schools here they can send their children to, and because of the atmosphere of the city. And so that is probably one of the greatest accomplishments, but it's not mine. That accomplishment belongs to everyone in this room. And the other one is being hired for the same job 3 times in 1 year. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. They're like, what? Bruce Harrell, City Council, and then Mayor Wilson in 1 year. So that may be a record. So
The last one is what will change in our police response to homelessness and mental health situations, or what's in process for how we do?
yeah, I think the biggest thing that's in process is the expansion of the care team. They are now able to go in public spaces without police response. There will be what we call a solo dispatch. So once they're up and running, they will be able to be dispatched to calls where someone is outside of your business or your home or somewhere you're trying to go to. That call will be diverted from a police officer to a behavioral health specialist to get that person in the right direction. And so I think that is really good for our city. I think it would only be expanded, and certainly I do support that effort. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Barnes. Thanks to all of you. As a thanks for your participation today, our club's foundation, the Seattle Rotary Service Foundation, has provided 600 servings of healthy produce to those in need through Harvest Against Hunger in your name.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining
Oh,
us.
thank you so much.
Speaking of SRSF, just a friendly nudge. Your SRSF and TRF, that's the Rotary Foundation, campaigns wrap up February 1st. Your gifts are what make our grants possible. Everything from clean water projects in Africa to supporting the local Rotary Boys and Girls Club. Giving to SRSF is a requirement of being part of Seattle 4, and contributions to TRF help us unlock valuable district matching grants. That's as long as at least 60% of us are participating. Right now, we are, thank you, that's been driving me crazy. Right now, we're at 50% for SRSF giving and 32% for TRF giving. That's good, but that is not brag-worthy yet. Starting tomorrow, the SRSF board will be making reminder calls to those of you who have not given yet. Consider this your chance to beat the phone call. You all got a QR code at the door. It's on your tables. Use it now to make your donation or just write a check. Very simple. At this time, we're going to welcome past President Bill Weisfield to the podium to introduce our new member, Bob Braun, or returning member, followed by David Bobanek, who will introduce new member David Sarju.
Thank you, Jan. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Bob Braun, who for the next few minutes is going to be the world's newest Rotarian. Bob and I discussed his introduction, and we agreed that 2 weeks from now, you're not going to remember much of what I've said. So what we're going to do is share a little bit about Bob, and then I'm going to read you a poem, which I believe shows why Bob is joining Seattle Rotary for. And I also think that if you haven't heard the poem in the past, you may remember the poem for the rest of your life. First of all, a little bit about Bob. Bob Braun owns and runs Bob Braun Consulting. It's a local firm that advises over 20 clients on labor and union relations, human relation issues, employee benefits, and company succession issues, among other things. Bob graduated from Linfield University in Oregon. He served in the Navy, and civically, locally, he's held leadership positions in the Pacific Northwest Ballet, the Fifth Avenue Theater, and the Pike Place Market PDA. Bob is somewhat unique in that he refers to himself as the last of his line. He has no spouse, no children, no brothers, sisters, no nieces, no nephews. And so I want to take this opportunity to go a little non-traditional and share with you a poem that I think reflects why Bob is joining Rotary. And I think, Chief, you'll also find this poem relates to your story about your dad. It's a poem that was written by Linda Ellis in 1996. It's copyrighted, and I've asked for permission to share it with you today. As I read it, think of your friends, your associates, your parents, and your family. The Dash by Linda Ellis. I read of a man who stood to speak at a funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth. And now only those who love them know what that little dash was worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. To be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions cash, will you be proud of the things they say about how you lived your dash? So please welcome Bob Braun to Seattle 4 as Bob lives out his dash with us. Bob, please shake hands with President Jeff.
Come up here, okay.
Across.
Come across. Oh, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. I know, follow that. Bill, that was eloquent. That was lovely. Thank you. And I think it applies so well to everything that we do in this room and outside this room. It's my great pleasure and privilege to introduce David Sarju to all of you. And before I start, I will just say, David is my people. He is going to be a wonderful new member to this organization. So, to understand David and how he sees the world, you have to look at where his story began. David was born in the West Indies to parents from two very different cultures. This foundation taught him early on to adapt and see possibilities in different settings. Now, that adaptability was essential because his childhood was defined by movement, from Barbados to Los Angeles as a young boy, to Texas and Edmonton. He eventually landed in Oregon, where he attended the University of Oregon and earned a bachelor's in biochemistry and molecular biology. That part of him is not my people. This communications major. So that degree brought him here to Seattle, where he began his career in research at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center. However, after several years in research, his focus shifted from the chemistry of molecules to the chemistry of organizations. He moved into the field of organizational development and has since worked with corporations, major governments, and a broad range of social service sectors, including workforce development, senior services, youth and family, public safety, and homelessness. On the home front, David is deeply rooted in this community. His 3 children attended Garfield and Seattle Academy. Today, they, along with David's grandchildren, live in Atlanta, Chicago, and in the Puget Sound area. One of David's favorite shared activities with his grandson is to ride on the light rail, which he describes as like going to Disneyland, but much less expensive. So, professional life. David professionally is the principal of Sarju Consulting. For over 25 years, his work has bridged vision and execution by clarifying the future state, mobilizing leaders, and shifting culture. Whether serving as the chief of staff for Plymouth Housing or a strategic advisor to King County's IT, David focuses on building systems and capabilities that allow enterprises to emerge stronger. David's drive to transform systems extends well beyond his professional consulting. It's the foundation of his volunteer life as well. His commitment to service began as an undergraduate student leader at the University of Oregon, where he led protests against South African apartheid and successfully, with others, convinced the school to divest its investment in South African government, an effort for which he received the Dean's Service Award. In 1990, with the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act, David helped organize Seattle's largest job fair at the Seattle Center to help employers shift their mindsets, to understand the huge talent and team potential that persons long denied entry could bring to their organizations. Since those days, David has applied the same systemic lens to a wide range of governance and advisory boards. He's served with the Equity Alliance of Washington, the YMCA of Greater Seattle, Washington Environmental Council, the American Red Cross, and the Urban Impact, among others. David also enjoys, in his spare time, you have spare time, in his spare time, reading, writing, gardening, and helping to restore natural and social ecosystems. In his volunteer work, just as in his professional work, David focuses on ecosystem developing. He works to harmonize diverse interests, for example, aligning city, county, and nonprofit stakeholders to solve wicked problems that no single organization can solve in isolation. This approach aligns perfectly with Rotary's mission to create lasting change in our communities. David joined Rotary because the people he knew who belonged to this organization were committed to creating a better world. He's here to join us in that commitment. I introduce David Sarju.
Okay. Thank you again to Bill and David, and thank you and welcome to David and Bob. At the end of our meeting, if you would stand at the back of the door and greet people as they exit so they can say hello. I also want to thank REB Enterprises and Carl Benke for their meeting support this year. I want to thank Bloodworks Northwest and the Westland Morse Group with Baird Private Wealth Management for their sponsorship support. Nicole, do you have announcements for us?
Nine will stay out. Okay. So we have quite a few announcements, so sit tight. Tuesday, we are already full on the 27th for FEDVA's ethnic dinner. So raise your hand. No? Okay. FEDVA can still take people, so You can sign up with the newsletter. Next Wednesday, we're a Zoom only meeting. So if you have someone that is hard for them to attend and they're interested in Rotary, that's a good way to get them to try. It's 12:30 to 1:30, and we'll have Dan Nelson, head of World Cup security in Seattle. And that's a big topic. Of course, everyone is well aware. The next Wednesday, February 4th, we have a lunch meeting at the Motif Hotel, and we will have the Georgetown University president, Eduardo Penalivier. How do we say that?
He's still at Seattle.
Oh, Seattle U. We've had him before then, but he's going? Okay. He stepped down. Oh my gosh, everybody. Okay, Wednesday, that same night, we will be going to the boat show for the Mariners, or if you want to buy a boat, you can come and sign up. David Bobanek, who was just up here, is leading that charge. So please come. It's a fun time, and there's a few free tickets left. So Sunday, February 8th, there is a tour of the More We Love at 1 p.m. You can RSVP directly to Virginia McKenzie if it's up on the screen or in the newsletter. Tuesday, February 10th, there will be an evening event at Taproot Theater. It's $20, but this will be a great event to attend at 5 p.m. There'll be light snacks and drinks available, and it's open exclusively for Rotarians. Anyone that's interested in serving youth, which most Rotarians are, this is a great mixer just put together for us, and we'd love to have you all there. This is our big event for the month. Wednesday, February 18th, there's a lunch meeting back here at the WAC with Washington State Schools Superintendent Chris Reichal. Am I saying that right? Rectal. I'm sorry. We round out in-person education months this meeting with our state superintendent, and we're back here on the WAC on February 18th. So that is where we end. We'll see you next time. Sorry, a lot.
Thank you, Nicole. There's a lot going on. Too many? Too many to read, maybe. Back in the 60s, when I was about 18, I was arrested for participating in a sit-in protesting the Vietnam War. There is even a photo of me being taken off to jail on the front page of a local paper, and no, I'm not going to tell you where. I saw another side of policing when I stupidly went to the 1968 Democratic Convention in Chicago. A few years later, working in the chancellor's office at the University of Colorado, my office window still bore a bullet hole from a prior confrontation involving the campus police. After moving back to Seattle, I found myself in the middle of the WTO protests, where our entire block was lined with SPD officers protecting those of us going in and out of our building. Suffice to say, my relationship with policing has evolved from being a naive young hippie to someone very deeply grateful for police presence in the time of turmoil. Thank you, Chief Barnes, and thank you to the men and women of the Seattle Police Department. We hope to see you back soon, perhaps with our other member, Chief Harold Scoggins, and even better, as a new member of Seattle 4. I think Mary will send you some membership material. David and Bob, please again stand at the back of the room so you can greet everyone on the way out. Thank you all for joining us. I look forward to seeing you on Zoom next week or at FedVis dinner. And again on Zoom, we're going to hear from Dan Nelson, who is Chief of Security for the FIFA World Cup. We are adjourned.